it's like no one cares if you mess up selling socks or somehow you sold the wrong
Right.
socks. It's like who cares? But then it's like if you mess up an order shipment or something, it's almost like we gave
Yeah.
you this opportunity, you fumbled. But it's like if you're selling socks and you fumble, it's like, buddy, like who cares? Like,
Right.
buddy wanted Nikes, you gave him Adidas. Who cares? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
You know, he goes
Yeah.
home and he's just like, Skyler. Yeah. Kind of really start off this conversation, I want to ask you, like, how did you kind of get into, I guess, like the acting bug? Because it says here, like, now, unless I'm totally blind, but it's like there's acting and there's kind of like a stunt man. Like, I think,
Yeah.
listen, if you're into acting, why the hell would you want to go into stuntman work? It's almost like it should be the opposite way, where it's like I was a stuntman, it was so dangerous, I decided to be an actor. But you're like, I'm doing
Right.
acting, and that's not enough for me. Like,
Yeah. I wanted to turn up the gas a little bit. I wanted
yeah,
to.
yeah, not
No, but I
too
kind of
much.
right, not crazy, but yeah, I just kind of fell into it. Honestly, they were like, "Hey, we booked you on this, but can you like take a hit, or like are you athletic? Like, have you done stunts before? Can you like get beat up a little bit?" I was like, "Yeah, hit me."
Yeah,
And then from there, it was kind of just like, okay, well, you did this one. You worked with this coordinator. Like, can you fall off of skis in the back of a truck? Can you do that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And it just kind of spiraled into the next job, and started training on the side too. And yeah, it just kind of happened. Honestly, I've always wanted to. I've always admired. Jackie Chan's the best stuntman ever, and I've always like loved the kung fu movies and like all that stuff, and wanted to always do it. But yeah, and here we are.
yeah. So I feel like you watched like You watched Rush Hour bloopers where you see Jackie Chan actually get beat to shit or get pounded,
Yeah,
and you're just like, yeah, man, totally. Like because I've seen
sign
them,
me
and
up.
then there's like there's some that, I mean, in the time frame that it is, even though I don't think there's anything like that complex about, but there's literally like some more showers where like, I guess it's him and Chris Tucker are beating up. I
Yeah,
guess it's like Japanese, Chinese like guys, and then like Chris Tucker actually smacks Jackie, and then Jackie's kind of looking at him like, "What the hell?" And he's just like, "Y'all look the same." And then I'm just like, "All right." Like back then, people were probably like, "Yeah, it's funny." Like today, there's probably an audience that's like, "Yo, hey, that's Jackie Chan. How did you confuse him with this guy?" And it's just like, dude, I'd probably the
all
same way.
those '90s movies are cross some lines that now you can't.
Yeah, I'm sure there's bloopers on movies that they still do that, because like I know it's still in your adaptive mind to kind of, but it's just like it's like, man, it's such a good blooper, but we can't post it because, but like looking at Jackie Chan and some of those, there's like literally ones that like he's climbing up something and he will fall, and then the crew were like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, "Oh, ow,"
He'll
and then he's
just
just like,
he'll do one of these.
yeah,"
He'll
and then he's
go,
like, "I'm good," and I'm just like, are you though?" Like, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, I'd probably go to the set and be like, can we not make me climb up the whole building? Can we just like find
I
something
think
else to
he's
do?
broken like every bone, and
Yeah,
a lot more than once. And
yeah.
he's a legend. He's a legend.
There's like a clip I think
So
online
good.
where his daughter, I think it's his daughter, or shows him like all the stunts that he did, and he like starts to kind of
Yeah.
like break down in front of her because he's like looking, because I don't know if he's ever gone back to watch some of his stuff, but like now when he looks back, he's like, oh my God, like look at all the stuff that I've done and I'm still here. I'm like, are you crying because of your legacy, or are you crying because you're like, I remember the
Yeah.
pain of all these?
It's probably a little both,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. But tell me a little bit about like how you got into the acting side of things. Like I know for me, I like doing interviews or podcasts. Like I guess since I was young, like I watched like the Tonight Show
Oh,
with Conan
right.
O'Brien. I was not really into late night because I was probably like 10, so no one's letting me stay up at like, but like
Sure. Yeah.
I went from watching Conan from the Tonight Show because my brother was like, you're gonna like this guy. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. What do you ever say? And he's like, yeah, no, he's kind of like you. And I was like, oh, like someone's like me? Sure, I want to see that. So then I would
Yeah.
watch his late night clips leading up the Tonight Show, and I'm like, "Yeah, this dude's hilarious." I'm like, the stuff that he's getting away with. And then when he went to the Tonight Show, I was like, I like his interview style. I like how he converses, but it was just
Yeah.
not as extreme because I guess he's on an earlier time slot. So I was like, still funny stuff, and he's still creative enough to do it. But then when I started digging more into it, I'm like, man, he's done The Simpsons, he's done this, he's done this. I'm like, no, he's not like me at all. Like, I guess he's funny, but I'm just like, he's got more charisma and stuff than I do. But was there something like that for you that got you into acting, or was it just kind of like one day you're like, I like that, I'm gonna do it?
It was kind of a little both, I think. I grew up like very much. I was a sports guy, soccer and
Okay.
baseball and football, kind of all that stuff. And then had to take an elective, and was like, I'll do theater, and that'll be fun. That'll be easy. And then I just fell in love with the people and just performing and did musicals and stuff, but was not good at the singing or dancing part. I think I was like a knife in Beauty and the Beast or something.
Okay.
But but then started to just explore like the acting side of it more. And then I saw Gladiator and was like,
Okay.
how do I want to do that? How do I do that?
Yeah.
And then I was off to the races from there.
Yes, that's interesting because, like, yeah, I did see in the bio like you're involved in like a lot of activities, like in sports, but like, was there ever a side of you like? Because I know like some people just be like, well, I was a really good tennis player, and I shattered my elbow and then that cut it. I'm like, yeah, you shattered your elbow. That's really what happened. Just say like you were
Right,
decent
right,
to a
right.
certain age, but was there ever a stage that you were like, man, I'm so good at this sport that like I should carry on with this, or is it just kind of like, guys, I'm pretty decent at these sports, but I don't see a future in this.
I definitely I saw a future in soccer. I
Okay.
had played soccer I think since I was 5 or 6, and that was kind of my trajectory. I was going to do scholarship that way. I was going to go as far as I could with that. But then theater came up, and this like
Okay.
acting career opportunity of like, oh, it's right there. I grew up in Santa Barbara, so it wasn't too far from home either. Um, and it wasn't based on like, if I fracture my knee or if I,
Yeah.
break my foot or ankle or anything, then my career's over. Like it wasn't based on any of that. It was based off of like, oh, if you study and you coach and you train and you do all this stuff and you work a bunch of sets and you learn your own
Yeah.
little way and you can do it until you're 90, even until you're dead.
Yeah.
So that was kind of I had an opportunity in LA and was like, oh, maybe I won't go to school just yet, and I'll do that and try it.
Okay. So, like, how old do you think? Because I know when you said you were doing like the elective, like, how old were you when you did the elective, and like, when did you kind of make that move out to like LA? Because I mean, like, listen, that's a big move. Like for me, I like being in Newfoundland doing this, but like, I
Yeah,
don't know if someone told me like, hey, you could try this in New York. Like, I feel like give me a plan. Like, give me like, what are we do? Like, I'm not
right,
just jumping. I'm not just jumping to New York, and then there was like, man, it's all on you. Like, we just kind of gave you the idea, and you did that. I'm like, I need an elaborate plan. Like, are you going to kind of help me through the first 3 or 4 months, kind of help promote me, kind of do this? Like, I'm
right,
not
right,
saying
right.
put me on billboards, but I'm just like, give me a pathway
No, you
for
want it
success.
like this
Yeah.
is the A to B to C to D, of what I
Yeah.
have to do.
Like,
Yeah,
give
I
me the
did not.
pathway that like I can succeed rather than just shove me in New
Yeah,
York and be like, yo, start off. And I'm like, dude, I don't know
go.
even where
Yeah,
to go. Like,
right. Yeah, that was definitely not me. I think I had one. It was just an audition, but it was an opportunity in my mind, and it was uh I had kind of auditioned from a friend that was uh one of my high school like leadership teachers, and was like, oh,
okay.
I went to school with this my buddy at Nickelodeon. He got you an audition, and then I took that and was like, oh, okay, maybe I won't go to school. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll just come out here and try this, and then I'll go to school later and get my bachelor or whatever later. Um, but yeah, it was no plan. It was just kind of going for it, and there was no backup. There was no like.
Okay.
I was just
Wow.
kind of trial and error, which ended up working, but it was still very much um, blind a blind step, if you will.
So you had like
Yeah.
say like a guy, like one of your buddies kind of was like at Nickelodeon at the time and just kind of like recommended you like as like this guy is kind of like into my
Yes.
path too. Okay.
So my leadership teacher had gone to school with, I think, the director of Nickelodeon, or like the
Okay.
someone at Nickelodeon who had sway.
Someone who had a little bit of
And
say, a little bit of say and sway.
yeah. And I just had an audition for Victorious, that show,
Oh,
and was
okay.
just like a keyboard player, like in the background. You know, it was very
Yeah.
like whenever they would have shows or whatever, I would be, you know, in the band and interact with them.
It's like an extra. Like one week you're here on Victorious, next week you could be on whatever the like what was the spinoff like Cat and something. And it's just like he's just there, but he's
Yeah,
there.
but
He's
it
getting paid.
wasn't. There was little bits of lines too, so it wasn't like
Okay.
an extra. It was like a tier above. It was like a co-star-y, but like recurring
Okay.
co-star, I guess. But yeah, did the audition, and they're like, "Oh, great! Do you know how to play keyboard?" And I went, "Nope, but I'll do it." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Great, just act, you know, fake like you can play it and rock out." And I did that. Had a great time with the audition, and then booked it. And then that was kind of the deciding factor of like, okay, if I book this, I'm not going to go to school. I'll push school off for a little bit. And if I don't book it, then I'll go to school and do the 4 years. Well, whatever.
Okay.
And it ended up working, and it ended up being a lot longer in LA than I anticipated.
That's pretty cool though. Like, because I
Yeah.
always hear like, you know, like with connections, but sometimes you don't know which connection will lead you where. But it's
Yeah.
like if I had to be like, so if I'm going to be full like honest here, if I had to be maybe like 10 years younger, like, because at the time the Victorious came out, like, I'm not saying it, like, I didn't really tune into the show, but it's just like I'm 33. So by the time that came out, like, they're
Yeah.
my age. So it's not like I'm just like, man, I'm like 10 years older than them, but it's almost like I went from watching like Disney. So it was like, you know, Hannah Montana. I think this is
Sure.
around the time Hannah Montana, like Wizards of Waverly Place. I think Nickelodeon's counterback was like, say, now I think it was like iCarly, Victorious, and then they kind of had their own one after Victorious. But it's like, dude, like I'm kind of out of that phase where it's like I know the laugh
Yeah.
track, I know this, but like it's if it was like say 10 years earlier, I was into like Drake and Josh, The Sweet Life. Like
Drake and Josh was the best. Drake and Josh was my jam for sure.
My parents might have thought I was like something wrong with me because I used to do my homework like say at 7 o'clock, like Newfoundland time. But then these shows would be on around when I'm doing my homework. So it's like, dude, how do I get out of this? Like I want to watch those shows, but like I play ball hockey and stuff after school. So then it was almost like, okay, how about just pitch this idea to your parents? If you do your homework after school, you can still have that little bit of time to play ball hockey. It won't be as long, but then you can watch these shows. And my mom, I was like, she's not going to fall for this. She's not going to fall. And I was like, Mom, what about if I did my homework after school? And then she was just kind of like, are you okay? And I'm just there like, and she's like, what's the deal? Like, tell me, like, this sounds weird. What's the end goal here? And I'm like, well, Mom, to be honest with you, like Drake and Josh comes on, like iCarly, I can flip the channels between the two because like we got
they were important, man.
Yeah. So then like she was like, sure. And she's like, as long as nothing slips, like your grades don't slip or something. I'm like, oh, okay. So literally you'd be there at like, yeah, like you're like at 6 o'clock after eating dinner or supper, and then you're just like, oh my God, I pulled it off. I'm just like, I hope my grades don't fall, because then you're watching like Drake and Josh, then you'd flip over to like Family Channel in Canada, like I guess it's like Disney, but it's like you'd flip it all, and then like all night you're just flipping over, and then your parents are like, there's got to be something to this. Like, what's these? And I'm just like, no, literally, like the shows that come on before are just not that great, and then these are like, it's almost like this is their chalk block of TGIF, like, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I was a big Drake and Josh fan. Whenever that show was on, I was tuning in for sure.
Yeah, so it's just like as soon as those shows came out, like Victorious and stuff, like again, I'd see clips of it, and I'm like, dude, like I get it, but to me, I'm just so like, it just comes a time
like,
where
not for me.
Yeah, like it just comes a time where you just kind of dwindle out of it, right? Like I didn't get into Friends until Friends was like off air, and all my friends were like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, dude, I probably wasn't developed enough, like you were. Like you were invested in storylines. I was just kind of like, guys, I'm not sitting here for 20 minutes just to figure out that Ross and Rachel get back together. Like, you know. But then when I get older and you're kind of going through that stuff yourself, you're like, okay, how did Ross get out of this one? Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so, then you're like, oh, okay, these guys are my age now. I get it.
I can relate to it. It's almost like we were on a break. I'm like, okay, Ross was on a break. How did he get out of it? Not the wisest move, Ross. I don't think I'm gonna follow that
Yeah.
tip, Ross. Okay. You mentioned about getting like your first kind of like the interest of like Gladiators brought you into the acting, and then like getting these kind
Hmm.
of role, like the role on Victorious. But like, do you remember the first role that you kind of like, and maybe it is Victorious, but do you remember like the first role that you're kind of like, man, like I like this. This is exciting. But then it kind of led to like, I guess, bigger roles. Like you're like, okay, I finally cracked it. Like I'm in here now.
Yeah. That it was a honestly, it was a long time before that happened. It
Okay.
was random jobs here and there, little quick, co-star on a TV show of like, oh, whoops, that guy on the side of the road, or hey, those guys,
Yeah.
But like the actual like role that was like, okay, this is going to open doors, and this is like a huge learning experience, and I can meet people, and I can turn this
Connect.
into two more jobs. Yeah. And I think it was like 2018, honestly.
Okay.
I did First Man, which wasn't that big of a role, but from that movie, I got Wolf of Snow Hollow. There was,
Right.
and then from that movie, I started working with that production company, the same, like a lot more. Met a bunch of people that also are making movies at the same time, and so it just became, from First Man, it became like this. Oh, Skyler is at next
Yeah, you start
quote
getting the
next
portfolio.
level.
Yeah, you start getting
Yeah,
the portfolio kind of going. Yeah.
yeah, and I think just that kind of experience and credit, I guess, too, but um, on my resume itself, I think allowed people to trust me more, if that makes sense. Of like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we can trust him with a guest star. We can trust him with a supporting or lead in this movie now.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of, I just opened, since that movie, it was kind of on the up and up
It
from
like
there.
builds your experience. Like, I mean, if you're like starting to work, like I know this is gonna be like a terrible example to use, but it's like it's almost like if you're working at like, a sports outlet store or whatever, right? And you're like your first couple of days, they're like,
Sure.
we're just gonna give you socks, and we're just gonna tell you to get people some shoes, and then they're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, and promote some of the clothing, and you're like, okay, and then like,
Right.
over time they're like, wasn't he like 2 years ago just telling people to sell socks? Now all of a sudden he's like watching the products come in, making sure they got enough like this, like talking to
Exactly.
assistant
Yeah.
managers, and it's like, okay, you're still not up there yet, but like they're giving you more to do, and then in a
There's
few
like
like then
now,
yeah, 5 years
yeah,
time
like
from
you
then, it's
can't,
almost like he's now the manager
right.
controlling us all.
Right. Like you can't really prove yourself with selling socks,
Yeah,
but like you
yeah,
can prove yourself with looking after the product, and
exactly.
selling shirts and selling sports equipment and all that stuff.
It's like no one cares if you mess up selling socks or somehow you sold the wrong
Right.
socks. It's like who cares? But then it's like if you mess up an order shipment or something, it's almost like we gave
Yeah.
you this opportunity, you fumbled. But it's like if you're selling socks and you fumble, it's like, buddy, like who cares? Like,
Right.
buddy wanted Nikes, you gave him Adidas. Who cares? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, you know, he goes
Yeah.
home and he says, like, Skyler. Yeah, it's not my horn. And they're like,
Exactly.
okay. Cool. Um, I want to ask you a little bit more, like now getting into like I guess a little bit of the bigger side of things here with Lilo and Stitch. Now, I can honestly say that I have watched Lilo and Stitch when I was, and I'm not saying when I was 10. I'm like I watched Lilo and
Yeah.
Stitch probably when I was like older than 10. But like that would be like on TV and become like a same thing with like the whole block of channels they used to have. Like in, I guess
Yeah.
again we call it like Family Channel up here, but it's mostly like Disney oriented stuff. But they just kind of give it like a Canada brand. But it's like there would be Disney's Recess. There's like Kim Possible. There's the
Recess is
Proud
great too.
the Proud Family, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
man, I'm not moving from this chair. Like there might be a show that you're kind of like iffy on. That you're like, I don't
Yeah.
really, I'm not really invested, but the next show is coming on in like 20 minutes. Like, because I like the Proud Family, but there's definitely stuff in the Proud Family that I'm just like, dude, I'm white. I can't relate to what you're telling me, Penny. Like, so,
To relate.
but it's
Yeah.
just like, it's like moving on. And then it's like, next thing is like Lilo and Stitch or something. You're like, what is Lilo and Stitch? You're like, okay, I'm watching it. And then it's like, Ohana means family. I'm like, dude, you just gave me a whole word that I can use for a year now. I'm like going around telling
Yeah,
people,
totally.
and they'd be like, what does that mean? I'd be like, it means your family, man. It's like your
It means your
family. And they're
family.
just like, okay. It's like, get away from Brian over there. But tell me a little bit about how you got cast into that role, because like I guess you're playing like Agent Foster in this, correct?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Agent
like tell
Foster,
me a
who's
little bit
like,
of that whole process.
yeah. I had a buddy who had an agent in Hawaii,
Okay.
and I was like, "What? You can do that? Okay. Hawaii, cool, awesome. It's kind of a free vacation if you think about it.
Yeah.
I just have to like get myself over there. Sure, I can work as like a local out there. Totally, I have friends out there I can stay with. Um, and so I got an agent in Hawaii, and they started pitching me for roles, started pitching me for stuff. I got a small, kind of like the proving yourself ladder.
Okay.
I got a very small role on NCIS Hawaii out there.
Nice.
And there's only like 2 casting directors. There's
Yeah.
like 2 of them. It's a small island.
Can't piss one off. The other one's just like, this is your last
Yeah,
chance, buddy. Yeah.
exactly. Like you better, put a good show on. But and they're great. They're awesome. Rachel cast me in this NCIS Hawaii. It was a quick bit part. But then after that, this Lilo and Stitch movie came across her desk, and because she had seen me in this NCIS role and booked me on that thing, she called me in for this. And this was like a goofy agent man who like is like Cobra Bubbles, like the big CIA guy who's like
Trying to find
the antagonist, but not like he's great. Courtney B. Vance plays Cobra Bubbles, and he's incredible. But yeah, I'm like his kind of the voice in his ear of like, sir, I don't think this is the right way to go.
Almost like the voice of reason sometimes, the voice of like, you're doubting yourself. No, let's go for it. Like,
right, exactly. But yeah, and then it was a self tape. It was a self tape. They had me read again, like a couple weeks later, and then booked it. And I found out too that Dean, the director, they had watched the tape over and over again because they just loved how ridiculous and goofy and just a funny, goofy take it was that I had kind of spun on this like serious guy. But it was great, man. It just kind of happened and flew out there. It was a quick turnaround too. I think it was like in a couple weeks after I booked it, they wanted me out there.
oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And then it was, I think 2 months kind of back and forth, flying back and forth, and it was great. It's great.
Do you find like, because I want to kind of dig into this one. I don't know if I've asked other people this question before, but it's like, when you do auditions, like, do they kind of give you an idea of like, hey, this is what this character is, this is how I want you to portray it, and then like, because I feel like if they do, that's fine, or if they just kind of like, you take this character the way you want to, because like I've seen auditions where, or like when you, because now everyone has like a book or something, I don't know, about like a TV show they're on, or like, making a band. Like I think Mark Hoppus has a memoir out, and then like it kind of ruins it because like I'm a big Blink-182 fan, but like when you're like, oh, I'd like to get the book, but you got to get that book ASAP because like 3 days later, people are already posting clips and all this in the book, and then they're like, you're kind of
you got to stay away from it.
Right? But like I remember they mentioned about like casting for say Friends and who could have been on the cast. When you look at again, you got the process now of like you're in the future, but it's like they show you a picture of like, oh, this guy could have been him, but he ended up getting 2.5 Men. This guy could have been here, and then you're like, I can't see him playing Joey, but it's like because I know what Joey is now. Like it's Matt LeBlanc, right?
Right.
So, but then like sometimes they're just like, well, I went into the table route and this is what they wanted me to read as, but I did this, and then that set them off completely. Like, oh, like we didn't think that character could do that, but now that you've painted that picture, it's like, oh, cool. So like when you went in there, was there kind of like that aspect of like, I'm going to read this, but here's an idea I have, so I'm just going to present that? Or it's almost like here's what we want you to play it as, and you're like, okay, I can do that.
They definitely present it that way of like, hey, this is
Okay.
what the character looks like, and this is the description of this guy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of up to you to make a choice, regardless if that choice is correct or not, of just making a choice and making a decision, because they'll direct you differently if they want. Oh, like that. We don't want
If
him
it's
that
too
way.
goofy.
That's too far. That's too goofy. Can you bring it back a little bit?
Okay.
They can always bring you back, but they can't always be like, can you turn it up a little bit? You know,
True.
it's much better to go way
Overboard.
out there than it is. Yeah. But I think it was just, this was kind of the cookie cutter agent guy, a quick like 4 scenes, not too many lines, but making each of those scenes like stand out in a way to like catch attention, you know, and a different spin on it as opposed to just the straight man, you know.
Yeah. No, because I think it's interesting from like an actor's point of view, because like sometimes like you'll read through stuff and you're like, okay, like I can't imagine that actor playing that any other way. But it's almost like that was their gut instinct. It's like this is how they wanted them to play it, and then this is how it ended up being, right? Like I can't think of one off. Like I know I've read it somewhere on like a Facebook or something where it will say, I think there was like one on Big Bang or maybe How I Met Your Mother, where it was like this is how they wanted the character to be, and then the guy just kind of blew it out of the water, and then this is what it ended up happening. So I was like, wow. And it's like not even like a main cast, right? It's just kind of like a supporting cast. Like I think it was like Gunther on Friends was the only guy that apparently could make the coffee, but then they were kind of like, okay,
oh no way.
Yeah, and then they were kind of like, then they kind of gave him a few lines, but like the audience's I guess love for him just kind of being like that side character, a little bit of Ross's nemesis. It's almost like they don't like hate him because he's Ross's nemesis. They're kind of like, we get what the idea of the show is. We get that he needs to have something to go off of, but like he's good. He's good with Ross. He's good with Joey. He's good with Chandler. So like, yeah, like he can make the coffee, but now he's going to be like everyone's favorite extra. And I was like, damn, like that's a good gig you got.
Yeah,
right? It's like
turned it into a.
Yeah, like I think they even mentioned one. I think on like I can't remember her name now, but like as a kid, I remember being in like so many different things. But I think they did like a podcast with Josh Peck, and they mentioned like I think her name is like Yvette, and then it was like Josh Trainer.
Okay.
Like so, they're both in that episode. I guess they kind of work into whatever it was, the cinema, right? But like Josh Trainer is supposed to be like crazy, is it Crazy Steve or whatever? And then she just has an obsession with Drake, but hates Josh for like no really valid reason. But they were only supposed to be kind of like a one-off, right? But then like people liked them on the cast and they did their roles very well. So it's like that's everyone's favorite returning character. I'm like, you get a returning character and there's people out there like myself that's kind of like, dude, like I remember Crazy Steve. I'm like, you did a pretty good job.
That's what happened with Chris Pratt, I think, on Parks and Rec. He was only supposed to be on for one episode, and he was so funny, and he just was great, and so they kept writing him in the episode.
You're in episodes now. It's just like, dude, I got other projects to. No. You did this yourself. You were too funny, and you cast yourself on this. So yeah, there's a lot of people that I guess you see movies as a kids or TV show as kids that are animated, and then all of a sudden now they do like live action stuff. Now, I feel like there's a point in time that people are like, yeah, I like that one. Yeah, that's cool. Like, oh, cool. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it becomes kind of like everything now is live action, where I don't know if an audience kind of gets dwindled out where it's like, yeah, but you don't need everything to be live action. Like,
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you need everything to be live action. And if it is live action, then make it like reminiscent and nostalgic of the first one, which I know I'm a little biased, but I think that Lilo and Stitch is doing that. At least from like the footage that the trailer, everything has been very reminiscent, if not shot for shot, of the original. Not only with the shots, but with the humor, with the voices. There's a lot of the same cast in this movie too, just playing kind of different roles. The same voice for Stitch is voicing Stitch again. It's just there's a lot of the same like structure of the thing. It's not changed. Where I think a lot of other live action remakes, they've like changed the story for some reason. Whereas like you already have a template, like it's already there. Just watch it and redo it. We just want to see it with actors that we know and that we love and that we want to see embody these beloved characters that, you know, from 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do think that this one is going to be very similar, if not almost exactly the same as the animated, just with actors that you can recognize.
I feel like sometimes with an audience, especially with live action, like you see an animated version and then you're trying to find the best. Like again, this is like small mind, but it's like if you do say a live action of Disney's Recess, it's like, okay, you want to find someone that looks just like TJ, but then people are like, but he doesn't sound like TJ. I'm like, okay, what do you want? Like, do you want it to look like him or do you want it to sound like him? Because like now we're in a world where it's like, okay, we got the guy that looks like TJ, but it's not like he doesn't sound like TJ. Now we got the guy TJ's voice, but now you're trying to match like verbs.
Right, it's a different medium. It's a
right. Like I don't know.
Totally different medium.
I don't know if you'd call this like live action. I could be dead wrong in this, but I remember like when they first came out with like the Scooby-Doo movie, and it's not animated. Like they had like Freddie Jr. And then I'm just like, I liked it, but then like sometimes I forget, and I'm 33, and I think the internet has confirmed this with me, is like when they do press tours like now and they show you like, remember back in like 2002 or whenever it was like that's like Scooby-Doo movie, and then people are like, there's only 4 people, or like, you know, and it's like, and then someone's like, yeah, the dog was animated, like, and you're like, oh right,
not
like
real.
The dog wasn't real, but it's almost like you expect someone to just kind of dress up and just be the dog, or like input the dog in the picture. You're like, this isn't Scooby-Doo, like it's Scooby. Where's the dog? Right? It's like if someone's like, we're doing Finding Nemo, and they give you like all the people, and it's like, there's not Finding Nemo. I don't see no fish. It's like, yeah, like, we're not actually bringing. What's wrong with you? It's lie. I'm like, my brain, man. That's how it works.
Someone drew it. Drew them.
Yeah. But no, like I remember seeing Scooby-Doo and I thought like, okay, this is great. But I feel like somewhere along the time, someone must have said, okay, that was good. We're going to give that like a big break. And now we're going to do some live action stuff. And then I guess one live action thing went like really well. And then almost it's like cocaine for like, I guess, producers where they're just like, okay, snorting that up. Let's do some more.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, hold on, chill.
It's a, I don't know. In my opinion, this is my thought, but like maybe it's a less of a risk or something of like, oh, well, it's already a built-in audience. So we'll just do this because we know that people are going to want to go and see it. But then at the same time, you're spending, you know, $200 million on a thing. Whereas like you could do that. You could make $10 million movies. Why not do that? You know, and from filmmakers that really want to have their bite at the, you know, and
it's just a different
maybe
dynamic.
2 of those hit. Yeah. You just have a more of a chance, I guess, of a movie hitting that way, but it's the same amount of risk, you know.
It's just like I guess in like a different realm to it too. And this is just again just my thought process of it is like there once was a time when I was younger that like you would go to a movie theater and you would see like your action movies, your rom-coms, your strictly comedies, and like different realms. But then all of a sudden it's like, you know, you had to like, I guess, like Spider-Man, like I like Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, but somewhere along the way, I guess it was like Iron Man or whatever. But like then it's almost like now you have DC movies, and then it's like Marvel, and then it's pretty much okay. You're creating 2 super teams because there's actors then that you're like, hey, I liked you in that rom-com. It's like, well, guess what? We created this character just strictly for him in this movie so that you would watch it. And I'm like, I don't really watch Marvel, but I like this guy. It's like if they were like, you know, if it's like, let's put it this way: if you were watching like Boy Meets World, and like Topanga is now cast as like Mrs. Whatever in this movie, I'd be like, oh, I was like, I like Topanga, but you're just trying to suck me in by putting her in this Marvel movie now because you know I like Topanga,
right?
Like you're right,
right.
So, and
we like her character in, you know, we like her character in this show, not necessarily like
exactly, but
that she's gonna be in, but
it's like that's what it is. Like when you go to a movie theater now, like I feel like the comedy side of things or rom-coms are like out the window, but then there's people who's like, you can still try that, but then I guess from a producer or an audience point of view, they're like, people don't want that anymore. I'm like, no, they do. You're just kind of afraid that it might like bomb in your face because yeah, all those movies kind of tend to go the same pattern. But I'm like, so do Marvel, like so do like action movies and all them. Like someone
they do
gets
the same
blown up,
thing.
someone gets like, you know. But then people are like,
Yeah,
oh, did you see this new Marvel movie? I'm like, let me guess, this happens, and they're like, so you did see it? I'm like, no, I didn't.
yeah.
But then they're like,
But I
they're
saw
like
the
a
20
rom
before
com.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like the rom-com is the same idea, but I guess they're just kind of like, "Dude, we're not I don't know about that." And I'm like, "But bring them back.
Yeah.
Bring back comedies."
Yeah,
You
bring
know?
back like independent comedies and independent. I just feel like independent film is having a renaissance right now, and that's use
Yeah,
a piece of the $200 million budget to like bring
yeah,
up like 5 movies that people may or may not like, but like maybe people love them. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That was
yeah,
a $10 million, $15 million movie. You can make 10 of those.
yeah.
You know?
It's just I know it's a different landscape, but, like, going to a movie theater at one point, and you'd see, like 5 or 10 movie posters, and you're like, "Man, I know I'm here for this movie, but next week I wanna see that movie and that movie,"
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah,
you're
yeah.
down to, like, dude, 1 movie a month, and you're like, "Ah, fuck." Like, I'm gonna fucking miss out. And now it's almost like you go to
Yeah.
a movie theater, you're like, I'm not missing out. Like, I'm not. But
Yeah,
then
you
you
go,
go on,
I guess I'll see that one. Or
yeah. But
maybe
it's
that
like
one.
Netflix
Yeah.
will have so much too. Like, there's Netflix, there's all these apps, and you're like, all right, I can kind of go through these, and like, I know I'm paying for the subscription, but there's some movies that I'm like, you sold me on the trailer. I'm gonna check it out, and then you'll end up like really liking it, or you don't. But you're like, you know what? Like, at least now
Yeah.
where I'm a little bit older, I can appreciate that they at least took a shot at that genre. Like, if it's like, hey, I didn't
Yeah.
like this movie, but at least you tried at a comedy where like I don't see a lot of comedies, so I'm just still like recently, but I'm like, you know what? Someone else might go on a
The
review and be
effort.
like,
Yeah.
my favorite movie in the world. So I'm not gonna go out there and be like, this movie freaking sucks. It's like, I can't believe this is your favorite movie. I'm just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Because if I told someone like my favorite movie or whatever, they'd be like, I hate that movie. I'd be like, how does that impact me personally? Like, it just hurts because then it's like almost like you suck. Your taste in movies suck. I'm like, oh, it hurts.
It's all subjective too, you know. It's
Yeah.
one person's favorite movie is someone else's least favorite. It's all
Yeah. Yeah.
subjective. It's
That's how arguments
what
start. And
hits
then that's
home.
how friendships can be broken, where it's like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You're telling me you like this movie. It's like, I can't believe we're friends with you. It's like, really? Over a movie? Let's get into, I guess, the stunt side of things. Like, because again, I know we kind of
Yeah.
touched on it a little bit beginning where it's just like they kind of get you to do small stuff. But like, tell me, I know you did touch on like how it kind of came to be, but was there always this side of you that was like, hey, you looked at other actors and they're like, oh, these actors are now doing stunts, and like people kind of praise them, and sometimes they're kind of like, dude, just be careful, like, because you are the movie, so like if
Yeah.
you get hurt, but um, was there just like one of those sides to you? It's like, dude, like if I could do my own stunts too, like I'm a double threat where it's like they don't have to worry about ever have to be like, hey, like this is our guy, like he's going to be in the background here, or he's got a few lines, but like we kind of want him to fall off this building, but we don't, you know what I mean? Like we can't find somebody
Right.
like just like him. So you're like, dude, I'll do it. Like fine, whatever it takes.
Yeah. I Tom Cruise was like,
I was
oh,
going to say, yeah,
that guy, come on. But it was like I just want to do cool stuff, and I don't want to be like about to do cool stuff and then they call in the guy to do the cool stuff.
yeah.
I just
Okay.
want to like just let me do it. I'll train, I'll do all, I'll learn how to do it, and then to do it multiple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to hang off a plane. I want to jump off a thing. I want to, get lit on fire and then fall down. It's all that stuff.
Don't tell your agent that. They might be like, this is the first time we're hearing this. Yeah. I want to be put
Yeah, I
on
don't
fire. Someone's like,
them.
done. Don't worry about it. Like,
but it's also like, can you do that stuff? Because
yeah.
these stunt coordinators will say, can you actually do it? Or are you just going to waste everybody's time with not being able to do it correctly? So there are things that like, maybe you should let the stunt guy who's been doing it for 40 years do it. Or there's, you just hit a certain tier of training, as you work your way up. You're like, oh, I can do this bit. I can fall off a 20-foot thing and land properly, or I can tumble down these stairs safely. And because it's not just, you're not just doing it once.
No.
You're doing it
It's over
10 times, 15 times. And can you fall properly and correctly every time to where you're not bruising your neck every time you hit the last stair,
Yeah.
Can you get hit by the car 14 times?
Like, I can imagine, like, when Tom Cruise first wanted to do this stuff, they probably weren't just like, hey, let Tom do Tom stuff. Because I'm sure, like, whenever he wanted to do it, like, just say if he already had a few movies behind him and he got, like, he's a blockbuster hit. And he's like, I'd like to try this stuff. I'm sure they weren't like, go for it, Tom. And I'm sure he probably maybe had a bit of pushback, like, dude, just let me do it. It's almost like, dude, we're not telling you no, but like, just so you know, this is not like a one-off. Like, there's people actually trained to do this. And then maybe he had more common sense. Is like, okay, you know what? Fine. Like, I'll learn it so that in future movies I can do this. Because there are some
I would love to ask him that.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's some stuff that when you look at like what he does, I'm like, Tom, like, no one's calling you a pussy or saying that you're afraid if you at least put on a harness here just in case. But he's almost like, no, he's like, I'm gonna grab the plane, no harness. I'm just like, dude, they can edit it out in post. Like, and don't be afraid in an interview to say, like, yeah, I did have a harness for my protection, but it still was me. Like, no one's gonna be like, oh, but he had a harness on. It's like, no, it was still him.
Yeah.
Right? He's like going across like Niagara Falls, and he's like, yeah, I walked across Niagara Falls, but like, I did have all the protections. No one's gonna be like, I told you. They'd be like, he still did it though. He still wants to live.
Yeah. He's doing it. That guy. I think he learned how to pilot a helicopter and like stall it, do the whole stuff, so he could fly the actual helicopter in Mission Impossible. But he did it in like 3 months or something. And they're like, oh, it's gonna take 6 months to a year to learn how to do this. And he's like, but how long do I have to? And they're like, oh, you have to do it 8 hours a day. And he's like, well, what am I doing the other 16 hours of the day?
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I'll and he cut the time in like a third. By a third. He just did it in like 3 months and learned how to do it.
His agent is probably just his agent's probably like on a side note, calls him up. Hey, Tom. So they said the movie was great, but what the fuck are you doing on the side, man? Like, come on, like you wanted to fly a plane, and then like he has to hold the phone back like this because he's like tired of hearing Tom give him the excuses of why he wants to do something in the movie. And he's like, Tom, baby, like, listen, like, I understand you want to do all this stuff, but like, come on, think about it. And he's just like, dude, I'm just like really interested in this stuff. And he's like, all right, Tom, bye. And then like he's probably like to his wife, he's just like, fucking Tom Cruise, man. Like,
he probably can't tell Tom to do anything. You probably can't.
No.
He says, Tom, what are you doing? Tom goes, this. He goes,
at this point, maybe that's true, but I'm sure behind scenes, like, listen, I guess you got to have a good relationship with your agents too. Like, if you're a reasonably good actor and like this is someone that you've had in your pocket for like 10 or 15 years, I'm sure you've got that rapport. But I would just love to have that rapport with like somebody where it's just like, this is what I did today. And I like, if you're like new, if you're like a new agent or you're not at that level, you're probably like, okay, Tom, like, yeah, that sounds good. But if you know the guy for like 15 years, you're like, fuck, Tom, we've been over this. Like, what the hell? Like, can you just get through one movie without trying to do something like retarded or incredibly like difficult? And then he's just like, no, he's like, I want to do it all. And be like, okay.
And he's doing it all, man. He's doing it all.
Judging on your bio, which again, I think this is interesting, is it said on your mother's side, like I guess it's your mom was, so was it Mexican, correct?
Like Mexican Indian and Polish and French and stuff. Yeah.
And then like on your father's side, it was like native. Was it like Cherokee?
Yeah. Yeah. Cherokee and Chinook. Yeah.
So like, with that combination, do you sometimes, because I know like you're in acting now, there got to be people that see you in certain films, like whatever, but like, do you get people that fall into those realms that kind of look at you and maybe ask you for like a little bit of advice or kind of look at you like, again, if I'm in Newfoundland and I see, I don't know many say Newfoundland actors per se, like I shouldn't say that, like I know them, but not to the extent where I'm just like, like, oh man, like this is so cool. Like I know them enough to talk to them and just be like, man, it's cool what you're doing. Not really my area of expertise. But like if I
Right.
seen the late night talk show Newfoundlander and he was like on NBC or like whatever, then I'm kind of like, dude, I need to talk to that guy. I want to ask him some things. Do you have any people like that maybe see you out on the street or whatever, and they're like, dude, like I am also part this or I am this. Like, tell me, it's so cool that you do this. Tell me
Yeah.
stuff about
So I did a Star Wars show.
it. Okay.
And so I've been doing conventions every now and then. And at those specific conventions, there's a lot of people that will come up and go, "Hey, man, I'm Native American. I'm from this tribe, or I'm
Oh,
from
wow.
this tribe, and I grew up on this reservation, or whatever." But it's just cool to like see like
Representation.
myself in like
Yeah.
like someone representing me up there, and I feel
Okay.
like that's my favorite thing ever. I just
Yeah.
there's not a lot of Native American representation up on the screen. It's happening more
Sure.
right now. Killers of
Yeah.
Flower Moon are coming out. There's more stuff happening now, just in the past like 3-4 years. But it's cool to like have people recognize that and
Yeah.
then just come up and say that. And it's my favorite thing. So hopefully that happens more, and just to get more representation up there.
That's cool. Has there ever been like again, like I'm not gonna try to like dwindle my way through history and pretend like I know everything about it, but it's like, has there anyone ever come up and said like, "Hey, I'm a part of this native tribe," and you're like, "We wouldn't have that. We were against you. Like we didn't vibe." And then
Oh
and then like
no.
he just leaves. He's like, "Dude, I was just telling him like I relate," and he just all of a sudden was just like getting ready to hit me.
No. We're not in the 1800s,
Yeah.
1700s anymore. Yeah.
Because I can imagine
Um,
there's like sometimes like I don't know if it's for the entertainment of TV or if there's actually a big rivalry between this stuff, but it's like Scottish and Irish. I'm sure if like they're in a film together, they get along, and then they sometimes might like make fun of each other. But sometimes it feels like if
yeah.
someone's just like this sees an Irish actor and they don't say a word correctly, or if they get something wrong, that Irish actor just like hold on a second, you're from Scotland, of course you don't know about, and then it's just like oh my god, like I don't think there's anything with Newfoundland that people have beef, so I'm okay if I ever like became
Nice.
famous, but like there might be a time frame that someone will make Newfoundland jokes because we are on the other
Yeah.
part of an island compared to Canada, and then I might be a little bit kind of I won't say triggered, but I must like, excuse me, like what? Where do you get off saying that about me? Like, you know who I am? And they'd be like, relax, you were an extra in Victorious, like the reboot. And I'm just still like, but
The
Skyler over
reboot.
there, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah, but Skyler is a main cast member now. I'd be like, you guy. Like, yeah. So let's kind of close it out with like a game of 10 random or no, sorry, random questions.
Sweet.
So the random question I got here first is this one's not too bad. Is there like an actor or actress that like you would like to kind of either team up with or like had a celebrity encounter with?
I'm a big fan of Vincent D'Onofrio. Do you know who that is?
Okay. Okay.
He's
Like the
like
name
the
sounds familiar. Okay.
he's the guy that plays the cockroach man in Men in Black.
Oh, okay.
You know
Yeah.
that guy?
Yeah.
That guy. He's been in The Cell. He's been in Law and Order: Criminal Intent. He's an incredible actor. He's Kingpin in the new Daredevil series that's coming out. He's incredible. He's like one of my favorite actors. But just to like have like a smoke with him or something would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just out and about. You're just like, hey man, and he's like, yeah, you want a
Hey
photo
man.
op? You're like, no man, not a photo op. A
No, man,
smoke.
I just want to
And
hang, man. Just a smoke.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He just like that's such an odd request. Most people ask for a picture and autograph. He'd be like, no man, a smoke. And he'd be like,
Yeah, yeah.
what about if I'm
Let's just
quitting or I don't want? He'd be
hang
like,
and
smoke
chill.
it. Yeah. He'd be like, I specifically told you to
Let's hang.
smoke. He'd be like, okay.
Oh,
All right.
all right.
So another one that's here is, oh, this one's pretty good. Um, do you have any siblings? Like, or are you an only child?
No, it's just me.
Just
Just
you?
me.
Okay. So this
Yeah.
this question might be okay. This question I'll rephrase a little bit, but like, have you ever had like a friend or a family member that like kind of really irritated you, to the point that you're like, I want you out of the house. I want you out of here. And like, what exactly did they do to irritate you? Because like I've got 2 older brothers,
Ooh,
so there's plenty of times that I can be like,
yeah,
don't even get me started. And I'm the youngest, right? By 10 and 12 years, like they're older than me. So it's like
yeah.
I didn't have much of a battle as much as it was like, yeah, you want to do that? Okay, here's my emergency. Mom, get over here. Get this figured
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, get their shit in order.
I traveled. I've traveled a bunch of places with friends and things. And when you travel with friends, you got to stay in the same places as
Yes.
friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes there was sometimes not every night, but I had a buddy who snored really loud, and so that was like all right, I gotta like I gotta like go in the other room, or I gotta fall asleep before he does, or I gotta that was hard, but we figured it out. It wasn't every night, but
Yeah.
that was yeah.
I've got 2 dogs that
That's a
sleep
hard
with
one.
me. They're like really small little dogs, but they snore, and it's
Yeah.
like almost like a competitive where it's just like one will go like, and next one's like, oh, you did that? How about this? And I'm like, dude, like, I can
They
fall
one up each
asleep
other.
because it's just like I've got TV on, so like I can kind of hear them, but like I'm falling asleep to some
Yeah.
noise. But it's still like
Yeah.
if you wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning because your brain's just like, hey, do you want to wake up for a bit? And I'm like, no, I don't. But you got me up now anyway. Next minute you hear like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how did I sleep through that? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, here's a
I mean,
here's a good one for you. So, out of all like your like acting experience, is there ever a time that you kind of felt like, not necessarily maybe kind of quitting, like you're on the verge of quitting, but like you kind of were on
mhm.
a set and you're like, dude, am I doing this right? Like, like, is this my turning point of like, shit, like, did I mess up here? Like, I guess like a point where you kind of
Yeah.
felt nervous, and then kind of how did you get through it or leap over it?
Yeah. There's been a few sets like that of just imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
of
Okay.
like, I am not supposed to be here right now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's, Ryan Gosling is right there, and Corey Stoll is behind me, and
Yeah.
there's just like, what am I doing here, really?
Yeah.
But then you just have to, retrace your steps of like, I did the audition, I did the thing, I've done the work, I've done this many projects, I'm here for a reason,
Yeah.
and then what is that reason? Figure that reason out, and then keep going,
Okay.
keep trudging forward. Yeah, because
Interesting. Okay.
you like pay your dues. You've paid your dues if you've gotten this far.
Okay.
But sometimes you forget that. Sometimes you
That's fair.
yeah
Like if if you're in a room, like I mean, give you like not like this is an example that actually happens, but if you were up for like, a best talk show and then there's Conan, there's Leno, there's Letterman, and it's like and then there's Tobin, you're
right.
just kind of like you're kind of like, yeah, I'm happy to be here. And then there's other people like, who the fuck is that who's all over there? And then you're kind of like, hold on a second, there's Conan. There's how did I get up here? Like how am I
Yeah,
nominated for this? And then it's almost like then you trace your steps, you're like, well, I also was pretty funny. I was doing this, I was doing that, and like,
yeah.
a lot
You
of
have to
people
give
listen to
yourself
me.
credit.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got
because
to
then
give
like you
yourself
are
the credit to be in the room. Yeah.
yeah, like at one point you are an underdog until you kind of prove yourself. Like I remember watching, I guess they're like in Canada, like I think it was like a Much Music Video Awards, or could be like it was like some kind of music video awards. And there's bands that you like that you grew up watching, all right? And like I
Yeah.
like them now, but at the time frame they're new because at some point everybody's new to music or everyone's new to acting.
Hmm.
So it was like Fall Out Boy, and they had the song "Sugar." Like "Sugar We're Going Down," and that
Yeah.
album was nominated.
Franklin.
I think now I could fuck this whole thing up now because then someone's like, actually, that wasn't the album. Blah blah blah. But like I remember there was other bands that I really liked, and I was like, well, I kind of hope this band wins or this band wins because they are already established. And then it was like, and the winner is Fall Out Boy. I was like, fuck, like I was going for that band. Like I hate that. Like why didn't they win? And
Yeah.
it's like, and then like 3 years later, I'm like, Fall Out Boy's actually good. Like I like Fall Out Boy. They're
Yeah.
like one of my
Then you're
top
like,
five
oh, that
bands.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But like at the
That
time, I
makes
was
sense.
just like, what the hell? Like I don't
Yeah.
like this at all. But everybody's new at some point. Like even kids today, when they're going off about like Olivia Rodrigo or Sabrina Carpenter, like I'm just kind of like, okay, I know who you are, but I grew up with like Britney Christina, so I'm kind of like not
Right.
following your trajectory. But like, there's a part of me, it's like yeah, you know what? That song's not bad for, but it's like I don't relate to it because I'm older. But I'm just like, if I was 20 odd, yeah, that song wouldn't be that bad. I probably played it a lot on my, on my phone,
Right.
right? It's just one of those time frames, and then you can't like be a total like I guess a hater or something. Be like, give me more Britney Spears. It's just like, dude, let her retire. Just let her
Yeah.
be. And there's like, this is their Britney
Leave her alone.
Spears. This is their
Yeah.
Christina. So I'm just like, okay, I can always go back and listen to like "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" if I want to.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The last random one here is all right. This one's more of like not so much a question, but I guess kind of like a story. But like, do you have either like a favorite like kind of acting story or like kind of like an inspirational story or like a funny story that happened on set that you're like, man, I can't believe I was around for this, or something like embarrassing that happened to you?
I mean, this was really cool. So on Star Wars, on the Book of Boba Fett, Steph Green was our director on that episode. Great, she's awesome.
Okay.
Had watched some of her other work. Got on set, and she's actually quarantining for another show. So she wasn't even on set. She was like, some PA was like holding a phone.
Okay.
And we were told that Jon Favreau was gonna come in and direct us for the entirety of our episode. And that, I mean, was just like, he just walks on and he's like, hey guys, I'm just going to be your director for this. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. And you have to shove
you're like, get the fuck out. You're not going to be our director. And then someone's like, excuse me? You're like, no, sorry, I'm really excited. I'm just really excited. I didn't mean like...
I'm just really excited. Yeah. I had to really shove the Star Wars nerd and the movie nerd down to just be chill in that moment. But that was really cool, just to like be directed by him. He's done everything. He's the guy. It was very cool. And then the cinematographer, Dean Cundy, shot like Jurassic Park. Like he's also the guy who was like, this close to me, and just is just surreal. It was surreal to have him as a director, him as a DP, and just be on this insane set for a week,
Yeah, and then the embarrassing story about that was you went up to them like, hey, quick question, can we go out and have a smoke? And they'd be like, what the hell?
Right. Exactly.
Bring it full circle. Just be like, listen, I wanted to have a smoke with this guy.
I should have done that.
Yeah.
No, I should have done that.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to our guests for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com. Follow and like us on our socials, and don't forget to subscribe. This is Tobin saying thank you, Jacob, and good night.